There is a great movement of characters in today's story. There is the blind man who obviously is cured, and he grows in faith. He is able to see more clearly as the story goes on. First of all, he refers to Jesus as a man cured me. And then a little bit later, he says this man must be a prophet. And then he grows a little bit more in faith and sees most clearly when he says, "This is the Lord." But then, on the other hand, you have the Pharisees and the other people in the crowd. They begin with hard hearts, and their hearts just get even harder. They get more blind as the story goes on. The Pharisees doubt, they question, they're exasperated by what has happened before them, and they cannot bring themselves to see the miracle that Jesus did for this man. Despite all of the evidence, despite everything they have seen, despite knowing this man and that he's been blind from birth, still they can't imagine that he is cured, and certainly not on the Sabbath, and certainly not cured by some carpenter from a small town called Nazareth. He's an outsider. He's not one of them. So they refuse to believe what they see right in front of their eyes. But that's not something that just happens 2,000 years ago. Also in our own time, we have all kinds of different stories in our society where people are not able to see the evidence that is right in front of them. People who cannot, or maybe even will not, see differently. For example, if you go on the internet, you will find on a few sites that Elvis is alive. And you could probably talk to those people who put up that website, and they will never change their mind, even if you go to Graceland and see Elvis's grave there. One person, I checked out a website for the story, is hysterical. Elvis was an agent for the FBI when he went to Vegas, and so Elvis was there, talking with the mobsters, and he was an agent for the FBI, so he's on the down low, even unto this day. And I don't know how that can be true, because you see him in Florida convenience stores a few times. The National Enquirer always has those stories every few years. And then sadly, also in our own times, people say, sadly, once again, that the Holocaust is a fake. And anybody who denies that nowadays is shunned, is completely put to the side, and should be, because they cannot see the evidence. Maybe they don't want to see the evidence, can't believe the inhumanity to man. A number of years ago, people were saying that the moon landing was a fake. Back in 1966, Paul McCartney was supposedly dead. And people are still wondering about President Obama's birth certificate. And so some people still believe other things are true despite all the evidence. Remember Hitler's diaries a number of years ago? Those were found to be a fake. Jesus' brother's coffin. You remember that one? They found this coffin and said it was from Jesus' brother. Completely dismissed as a fake. And those crop circles in England made by 2 college students. And so we always have to open up our eyes to the reality in front of us, to see the truth in whatever situation we may find ourselves in. We are called today to open up our eyes to the wonders of God, what God can do for us, the beauty of this world, His love for us that exists each and every day. And that love is expressed most fully in the presence of Jesus that we celebrate this morning at this Mass. And so we are called always to open our eyes to the truth. Sadly, the Pharisees in today's story are closed to that truth. And we have known people who have refused to see. Maybe out of fear, maybe out of worry for the future, maybe just change scares the heck out of them. And so there's many motivations for it. But when we deny what is right in front of our eyes, that's an obstacle to God's working in us if we refuse to see the obvious that is right in front of us. So this morning we pray for an openness to God's invitation to see His work each and every day in our lives. And that makes changes in us, and that calls us to new life. It calls us to conversion each day. So in a few weeks we will celebrate the Feast of Easter. And we will have another story that is placed in front of us. We have the story of a tomb with the stone rolled back, with an angel telling the women who are at the tomb, that Jesus has been raised. They go inside the tomb and see that his body is not there. And so, right in front of them, they should know right off the bat that Jesus has been risen. But they say, well, somebody's taken his body. But they slowly grow in faith. They allow themselves the ability to see and to be completely open to God's communicating with them. And then they can realize that, yes, Jesus has risen from the dead and has given us new life and new hope. Even when many people around them, I'm sure, were saying, resurrection? Right, that can't happen. A carpenter from Nazareth? Are you crazy? But still, they are able to see and they are able to believe. And so we come together this morning believing in the testimony of Scripture, believing in the witness of our family and friends who have taught us the faith, believing in those people who for many, many years over the centuries of the Christian faith have taught about how Jesus died and rose once again for all of us. We also believe because of the great blessings that we have received in our lives. We believe because God indeed has been good to us and God has shared his faith with us each day. Now, at times in our lives, we may doubt. We may ask questions. We may wonder and ponder all kinds of different things. But that also can lead us into appreciating our faith more. It can lead us into learning a little bit more and strengthening our faith for the long haul. There are some who will look at something and never believe. But we can say that we come to believe because we have been shown. And we have seen the testimony of others. We have seen God's working in our own lives and are able to say with certainty that yes, the Lord has risen from the dead and has opened our eyes to the wonders of the world, to the wonders of our faith.